Good evening, friends. Thank you for
Good
joining
evening, good
Candid
evening.
Media every evening to follow what's happening in India and abroad. Thank you for sending me your useful comments and suggestions. If you believe in this channel, do hit the like button, share with friends, and spread the message. Our only mission is to bring you the truth and both sides of the story. Thank you for your support. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Dr. Alexander Jacob IPS. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, welcome.
So, viewers, he's a very dynamic, exceptional individual who has, in the past few videos, exposed a lot of things that have surprised the audience. So, let me just give you a brief background about Dr. Alexander before we start the questions. Dr. Alexander Jacob was born on 25th May 1955. He is an Indian retired police officer. He rose to the rank of Director General of Police in the Kerala Police Force, heading the prisons department, and later assumed charge as the Managing Director of Kerala Police Housing Construction Corporation. At present, he is the Nodal Officer of National University for Police Sciences and Security Studies. Alexander was born to parents who were both school teachers. He had a school education in his village near Pandalam. He studied pre-degree at St. Xavier's College, Trivandrum, and BSc Chemistry at Marivanos College. He did master's degree in English, history, politics, and sociology. Then he took a PhD in English literature. He started his earlier career as a sub-editor in Malayalam Manorama, the leading newspaper in Kerala, and then worked as a lecturer at the Marivanos College. Though he stood first in the bank officer's exam, he decided not to pursue it. He wrote the Indian Civil Service exam and was recruited to the Indian Police Service IPS in 1982. Dr. Jacob has a lot of interesting anecdotes to narrate that he encountered in his lifetime. Some are very prophetic, some are mystic, and some are very spooky. So, Dr. Alexander, so we will start with the first question. Uh, you never had any plans to join the police force, but an astrologer who had the script of Brigu Maharashi went through his future and which made you appear for the civil service exam, and finally you were selected in the police department. Let us hear your story about this incident, Doctor.
First of all, I don't believe in astrology, but while I was a lecturer in Marivanas College, I went to my grandfather's sister's house at Talavadi. Then somebody told about this Burgu Samhita. With the disbelief, I went to that place. And at that time, this Burgu Samhita was consulted by a personality who went to Himalayas and came back after a few years of tapas there. His name was Sridharan. So he opened the Bhrigu Samhita. You have to pay a donation to the Lord Krishna's temple in front of his house, which is
So
modeled
you're
on
talking about
Guruvayurappan.
Sridharan Arur.
Arur, near Arur, Chandirur. That place
Very
is called
famous,
Chandirur.
yes, very famous
That
personality.
temple is modeled on Guruvayurappan temple at of Guruvayur.
Yes.
So I paid a donation, and then according to the place I put that money, he opened the Bhrigu Samhita and started narrating the story. So Kaushika Muni was traveling in a boat, according to the story being narrated there. So he looked at this thing, and the sun was about to set in the far horizon. So he said, Tamas is coming. So from Tamas, the Sanskrit word for darkness, he said, Thomas is your grandfather's name.
Yeah.
And when he looked into the sky, it was a beautiful sight. So according to Sanskrit word, the thing given in the Bhrigu Samhita was, the view was very saras or very beautiful. So from that Sara, he read Sara is my grandmother's name. And then he got the smell of two good scents from the atmosphere. So one was Yakugigam. So he said from Sanskrit word Yakugigam, he said my father's name is Jacob. And then the second scent he got was that of Mariam. So from Mariam, he said my mother's name is Mariamma. And then the one Arenam, a swan was swimming in the rivers. So he told Arenam, Anna, my grandfather's sister's house was the house belonged to Annamma. From
Yeah.
this one, he read my grandfather's sister's name. And then he said, Kaushigamani, Kaushi. He said, Kaushi is the name of my father's brother who died. And then, like that, he read the names of all the people in my house. And then he said, you have been born as a rebirth of a minister of Ambalapura king.
Hmm.
There was a king called Ramachandran, whose minister you were in the previous life. You revolted against him and you were killed and put into the Achangovil river. So this life you would be born on the other bank of Achangovil river. And he said the place where you will be born is Konapume in Sanskrit. So he said Kona means Tumba in Malayalam. Pumi means Manna in Malayalam. So he said you will be born at a village called Tumbaman, the place where I was born. And he said the house in which you will be born in Kaushigamani's Shastram, it is written as Navagrehe, where all the 9 planets are looking on. He said Navam in Malayalam is Puttan, Graham in Malayalam is Veed. So the house name in which you will be born is Puttan Veed, my house name in Tumbaman. Then he said, you are now a teacher. I was a lecturer in Marion Scholar at that time. But you cannot continue in this profession for long because there is an examination. If you pass, you will become rulers of the earth. He asked me, what is that examination? I said, it is IAS, Indian Administrative Service Examination. In those times, it was called IAS, etc. services instead of Indian Civil Service Examination, as we call it now. He said, if you have to write that examination. So I had no plans to write that examination at that time. So I decided to write that examination. Then he said, you will get a crown on your head if you write that examination. So in Kaushigamani's time, there was no cap, police cap. So it is written as a crown will come on your head. So he said, which is the service which have a head ornament on it? I said, it is Indian Police Service. He said, you will get into that service. So I wrote that examination, got into that service in IPS within 2 years. Then he said, the king who ruled 400 years back will come back to rule again Kerala with the same name, Ramachandran. You will be his minister for 9 months. Never revolt against him. He will give you a good posting. So after 2 years, P. Ramachandran became governor of Kerala with the same name. And I became his ADC, AD camp, or minister to him in 1986. I never irritated him. I never revolted against him. And after 9 months, when he was about to leave to Tamil Nadu, he called the chief minister and told that he should be given a good posting. My ADC should be given a good posting. And Ike Nayanar, the chief minister at that time, posted me as Superintendent of Police Kottayam. Now, most wonderful thing was, he told in Kaushigamani has told in this horoscope or whatever you can call it, that when I was killed, I was in love with a girl. And when I was killed, the girl committed suicide by jumping into the river. And Kaushigamani says that girl has been reborn. And you will go to, 5 years later, you will go to Kolla country, Kolla Rajyam. And there your previous birth's love affair, that girl is reborn. And she has a synonym of light as her name. And as predicted, 5 years later, I went to Kollam and married a girl called Prafa, which is a synonym of light, and she is my wife. So, though according to Christianity, we don't believe in any kind of this horoscope and all astrology, this is something unbelievable to be a coincidence, because 4,000 years ago, when Kaushigamuni lived, Jesus Christ was not born. There was no Christianity in the world. And you cannot imagine that Christians will be in Kerala and India. And their Christian names, according to Syriani and Latin, that names is being read from Kaushigamani Shastram, which is 4,000 years old. That is unbelievable. It's an experience which cannot be explained.
Amazing. Yeah. So
and later, I was governor's ADC. We went to Tanjavur. Then governor said, I am going for some private functions. You can take rest in the guest house. So I told him I want to consult Vaidishwaran Kovil. There is a pure Brahmin village
Very
around 20
famous.
kilometers near
Yes, yes.
Tanjavur. So the police officers took me there, and then I consulted the famous Agastya Muni's Nadi.
Yes.
So Agastya Muni's Nadi is written in Tamil. Kaushika Muni's is in Sanskrit. But both the Nadis say exactly the same thing. No difference at all between the 1,800-year-old Agastya Nadi and 4,000-year-old Burgu Nadi.
Okay.
But this Agastya Nadi told one thing in addition. They told that you will have 3 daughters. The first one will study history, and the second one will study the secrets of engines, machines, and the third one will study the secrets of human mind. So exactly as is predicted, I got 3 daughters. The eldest one became first rank in history, BA history, and MA history, Mariam. And second daughter, Jessie, became a BTech engineer and studied the secrets of machine. And my third daughter, Ammu, studied psychology. She was a university first rank holder, and she is now a lecturer in the St. John's Christ University in Bangalore.
Okay.
So before your children are born, in what sex they will be born, what science they will study, how can you predict this kind of things? This is
Absolutely.
something a mystery of Hindu sciences.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, doctor, see, when we had also the same experience when we went to Nadi, we went for this Nadi reading, and so many things that they told us were absolutely true and came true. So we understand what you would have felt at that time and later on.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah.
Though I don't believe in astrology, this is something unexplainable in any science in modern world.
So moving on to the second question, you've handled a case of deity theft from a temple in North Malabar, which the thief had to abandon the deity and escape. This happened 3 times. Can we hear the story from you? This was of a powerful Devi
Oh,
temple. Yes.
there is a famous temple in Malabar, that is Mridanga Shaileshwari.
Yeah.
This was the main temple of the Parsi Rajas. Before Parsi Raja goes for war, he will go to that temple and pray to the deity before going for the war. But last, the Britishers realized this and they blocked this temple. So Parsi Raja couldn't pray in that temple and he was killed within 6 months. Now, this temple, this goddess is Bhadragali, but Bhadragali is dressed in pure golden form. Usually, Bhadragali have a skull hanging from the neck, and the
Yes.
human fingers become the Arinyana and all. But here, you know what happened? This is pure gold, and Bhadragali is dressed like a beautiful woman. There are only 4 temples in Kerala, like the famous temple of the Pandalan Rajas, the Karnagapalli temple, etc. These 4 temples have Bhadragali in golden, beautiful form. This is one among them. And this goddess is famous for her music, especially Mridangam. And that hill is shaped like a Mridangam. That's why it is called Mridanga Shaileshwari. The goddess is in Panjaloham, and it is worth at least 2 crores to 3 crores. But no guards will be posted. Villagers say goddess have the power to protect herself. So you should not post any police officers. That's what they say. So while I was ASP in Talacheri, the goddess, somebody came and committed theft to the goddess. For 41 days, absolutely no evidence. Police did all the sciences we know and absolutely no way. Then we consulted an astrologer. This astrologer said, don't worry. Within 48 hours, goddess will come back. I asked, how? No, she is powerful. She will come back. That's what he told. So by night, I got a message from Palghat. An idol is left on the open road with a note attached to it. This is Mridanga Shaileshwari goddess. Please take her back to the temple. This is the instruction written, and it is written in Tamil. So we knew that the thieves came from Tamil Nadu. Then there was a message from Palakkad South Police Station. They don't know where this Mridanga Shaileshwari temple is. So sent a wireless message, and by night 11 o'clock, I got the wireless message, and immediately called back and said, "This goddess belongs to Mridanga Shaileshwari temple, which is in Kannur in Talacheri subdivision. I am coming immediately." So by the time I reached there by early morning, the whole procession was there. Thousands of devotees have come. They were praying to the goddess. Now a goddess cannot be brought in a jeep, so I ordered a lorry, dressed it up, and then brought her back to uh, to Mudangashaleswari temple and placed her. It takes 41 days to place the goddess in the correct form with all the prayers accompanied. 4 years later, I was a SP Kannur. Again, the goddess committed theft. And for 3 days, absolutely no proof at all. There is no trail even to the direction in which the goddess was taken. Again, we consult astrologers. Astrologer said, "Don't worry, she will come back. She doesn't need police help or any government help. She will come with her own powers." So 72 hours later, the in Calcutta police station, the capital of Wayanad district, got a phone call. They say, in lodge number so and so, in room number 3, Mridanga Shaileshwari goddess is there. Please take her back to Mridanga Shaileshwari temple. So over the hill, we immediately went to Calcutta, took her back to Mridanga Shaileshwari temple. Third time, again, there was a theft. But this time, the goddess could be taken only around 300 meters away. Then they abandoned it there. So every time, the police sciences, the whole of forensic science or forensic medicine have absolutely no use at all. The goddess will come back with her own power.
Yeah.
Now, the wonder is that years later, we captured 2 of these gangs. One was a gang from Karnataka. The second was a gang from Tamil Nadu. And the thieves were telling us a story. As soon as you take the goddess out, they will lose the sense of direction, which is north, which is south, which is west. They cannot identify. And they cannot drive the car on the road straight way. You can drive it only like a snake crawls on the ground. So anytime you can fall on the ditch on the side, but it will not fall, because if it fall, goddess will be harmed. But so goddess will not do that. But the other way, she will make these first persons lose the direction. Second thing is that they will lose the control of all the sphincters. So they will urinate and defecate without their own consent inside the car. So after some time, it will be very difficult to carry her away. So that is why every time they abandon her. And every time she will come back. And I asked the main Purohit, what is the secret? He said, look, if the goddess have a 5 feet long depth into which she has to be circled, many times circled and placed and fixed there. So every time you do that, around 4 lakh mantras are being
chanted.
Then only she is fixed. And that mantras have wonderful power over the thief.
Absolutely.
That's why no thieves can take her away. And that is one temple where miracles happen. We have in Christianity, we have a belief of St. Jude. If you pray to St. Jude, impossible things will happen. Mridanga Shaileshwari is like that. If a person feels that something is impossible, then you pray to Mridanga Shaileshwari, it will be done. That kind of hundreds of stories are there, including Madhusudan sir and Padikal sir coming back. They were in jail at that time, got a bail, and they came to Mridanga Shaileshwari. And Mridanga Shaileshwari gave a darshan to them and told that carry the case on the other side of the longitude, which is passing to Tanjavur. That is how the vision they got. So they transferred the case from Kerala, Rajan case, to Tamil Nadu, to Chennai. And the case was not sensational in Tamil Nadu, So they escaped, and ultimately they both came back as DGPs. K. Karnagaran, he lost his chief ministership. Congress itself split. And everybody thought Karnagaran is finished. Then he came to Mridanga Shaileshwari, Pradrishanam around the temple 3 times. And he came back as chief minister within 6 months, which everybody thought impossible. Women who cannot have children according to science, according to medicine, if they come and pray here, they become mothers. So hundreds of miracles are there. Now, the most recent miracle is that earlier time, go to Mridanga Shaileshwari temple was a big task. You get down in Talaseri or Kannur railway station, travel around 50 kilometers, And that place was not good. Not good roads were there. A lot of bumps and ditches and all on the roads. But the Kannur railway station and the airport, Kannur town revolted against the airport. So they tried to shift it to Edakkad. There also there was revolt. And after 3 experiments, the airport authority decided to place Kannur airport in the present spot in Iriti, which is hardly 2 kilometers from the Mridanga Shaileshwari temple.
Oh,
So devotees throughout the world travel to
come to
Kannur
this.
airport and then just walk to the temple, pray and come back. And next flight, they will be back in their places. So the airport was dragged, according to me, dragged by Mridanga Shaileshwari goddesses into her backyard. That is a wonderful of Mridanga Shaileshwari temple.
So it makes me also want to go there. So surely I'll be also going there. Not for anything, not to ask for anything, but to just see her strength.
And don't go for ordinary things. If you have something impossible wish only, you go there. And she will get that impossible wish done. Yeah.
Yeah. So now moving on to another question. This is one of the spookiest one in your criminal investigation of a murder case. You, with the help of some sorcerers, brought the departed soul of a dead person into the body of his son. We have read in the autobiography of a yogi, after death the soul goes to the astral world where life is by far better than here. You seem to have a direct experience of this. Can we hear the story from you?
No, souls being brought back to the original body is done hundreds of times in the Hindu Puranas. It has happened many times in Christian Bible also. So bringing the soul back is not an extraordinary thing. It has happened many times in the world. Now the actual case is shopkeeper after shop was coming back to his house by 9:30 in the night, and he was killed. Early morning, his dead body was found. All money has been plundered out. So for 4 days, we did extraordinary investigation using all the scientific techniques. Absolutely no lead at all. And a widow with 3 children, all less than 15 years old, were crying for justice. And the merchant association also started an agitation. So something had to be done. So my DYSP of Taliparamba, Gopinatha Menon, he told, "Sir, can we call the soul of the person and ask him?" I said, "How is it possible, Menon?" He said, "Look, there are 3 Muslim pandits in near Kanjarapalli, in Mundakai. They have brought dead bodies earlier, souls earlier also, and I have detected a case in Kottayam like that. So, though I don't believe in all these kinds of things, I thought experimentation is always good. If I can solve this case using this technique, then let us solve this case." So I asked him to bring all the 3. So these 3 persons came from Mundakayam in Kottayam district, and by night they reached by around 10:30. So the dead person had 1 son and 2 daughters. So the son was taken. They he circumtraveled 3 times the place where the dead person was buried. And then the child was brought. So the child was asked to lie down on the ground. And then they took 1 vetila and applied all these things. So as they swing this vetila, the boy will come like a stick up and down. And then they did some mantras or whatever it is. And then the soul came and entered the child's body, eldest son's body. Other 2 are daughters. So if a soul has to be brought, a male soul will come into a male body, a female soul will enter only a female body. That's what they say. So as soon as the soul entered, the child started talking. Then immediately widow said, "The sound is my husband's," because myself and DYSP had never heard this fellow, that fellow sound.
Yes.
The widow says, "This sound belongs to my husband." So we asked what has happened. He said, "Look, I had 9,500 rupees with me. I closed the shop and was walking home. Then 2 persons apprehended me. 1 fellow stabbed me. The other fellow was holding me. And the second fellow I cannot identify. 1 fellow I can identify that he is so and so." This is what he said. Then he started crying. "Look, it's very painful to come from Padalam to the world. So it's very painful. Can you relieve me? That's what he was requesting. So when the dead person started crying, the widow became very, very sensitive. She said, look, even if the case is not detected, please send my husband's soul away back to Padal. So then I told the magician, you send the soul away. So the soul went. And it was by this time, it was 12 o'clock midnight. So I told the DVSP and police immediately to catch the fellow who was identified. Then they went to his home and arrested him. So we interrogated him. He said, look, I am the person who did it. There was another fellow with me. He so and so. So we early morning, 5 o'clock, we arrested the second fellow also. And by 8 o'clock, the whole story, along with the evidence, we got all the evidence, because this story cannot be written in a case diary. It cannot be presented to a court of law. So then we detected the knife, and we discovered the other items used.
Yeah, it made
where
things
the
easier
money
for
was
you.
spent, where the
Yes.
money was spent, and all
Yes.
those things, and recovered half of the money also. And then the case was convicted. Now the question was whether a soul can be recalled. I mean, Hindu Puranas, hundreds of stories were there, including Parashurama's mother or many other stories, hundreds of stories in the Puranas, where a dead soul was brought back. For Hindus, it is very easy to believe a soul can be brought back. In Christianity, if you read the Bible, there are many stories. You know, Lazarus dead 3 days. So Jesus Christ came, called back the soul, and the soul re-entered the body of Lazarus, and Lazarus came back to life. Jairus' daughter died. Jesus Christ called the soul back, and the Jairus' daughter, the military officer's daughter, came alive. The widow's son died. Jesus Christ came to the place, and he brought the soul back, and the widow's son revived. And the prophet Elijah in the Bible brought the soul of the widow's son back to his body and made him again alive. Jesus Christ himself died. He went with the thief on the right side. They together went to Padalam or Paradisa in the Christian terminology. And third day, his soul came back, entered his body, and Jesus Christ resurrected. So in the Bible, there are 7 to 8 stories like that. In the Christian saints, I used to tell the story of 600 saints in Shalom television. So many saints in Christianity have the power to call back the soul and make a dead person alive. Like the famous Thomastanai Antony, the saint in the Egyptian desert, he did it many times. And the Jacobites and the Orthodox people in Kerala, their main founder was a great archbishop called Jacob Brudana. From the word Jacob only, the Jacobites, the word Jacobites originated. He recalled the souls many times and revived at least 4 people. So many Christian saints did it. Now, in India also, so many saints of other religions also have done it. What is being done, I don't know. I can only believe what I saw with my eyes and heard with my ears. Each religion has its own explanations.
Yeah.
Now, the heaven and hell differs for different people. For Hindus, there are 7 heavens, but 28 hells according to Bhagavatam. And in the Devi, the Shiva Puranam, there are 76 hells. Very interesting to read. I have read Shiva Purana and Devi Bhagavatam to read each hell, what is happening in each hell. So when sometimes I speak in the give speeches in the temples. So in one temple I was commenting that I believe that I have done enough punyam to go to heaven. But if by any chance I don't go to heaven, I know the hell to which I will go. Kora Kumbi Bhaga Naraga. Because anybody who kills birds and animals and eat them will go to Kora Kumbi Bhaga Naraga. I am very fond of mutton and chicken, so I will definitely go to Kora Kumbi Bhaga Naraga. This Hindu Puranas is very right. But permanent consignment to heaven and hell is not there in Hinduism. There is one advantage of Hinduism. For Christians, Muslims, and Jews, if the punyam is more, you will go to heaven for millions of years.
Yeah.
If your sins are more, you will go to hell for millions of years. It is very kind of injustice, for 70-year life, millions of years of benefit or punishment is given. But in Hinduism, if a person dies, he will temporarily go to heaven or hell, but there is a rebirth. You are given a second chance. Again, your pavam is more. You will give a third chance. 4, 5, 6. Ultimately, the soul is saved. It will get moksha. That is a wonderful theory of Hinduism. So what happened when this fellow did that is something inexplicable. Out of the 3 fellows who did that, only one person is alive. That is Anbar Ustad in Mundakayam. So I asked him, what has happened? He said, sir, you have done me wrong. I asked him, what happened? So after you told the story in the television, all the Muslim bandits came and scolded me and told, never do this hereafter. So my income is lost, he said.
Oh.
And this Anbar Ustad is only person alive. He says jinn is being called, not the soul. The jinn will come back, but the soul will not come back, according to him. Now, so many instances like this are there in even in 20th century. Now, there is a famous English book, At the Hour of Death. It's a narration of doctors and scientists. What happens when you die, and what happened to your soul, and how it travels, how it comes back. Like that, 136 real instances are told in that book by scientists and doctors at the hour of death. But modern science and history was bewildered by the story of Om Seti. A 16-year-old girl fell from the steps in England, and she was unconscious for 36 days. And then when she awoke, she said, I am the lover of King Seti, who lived in Egypt 1400 years BC. And they admitted her to a lunatic asylum. They thought the girl has become mad because of the accidents. But after 3 years, she went to Egypt. And she went to this particular place and told the Egyptologist, just near this temple, there was a Maidan. You have to take the soil out and bring the Maidan back to the old shape. When they removed the soil, they found a Maidan exactly as this lady told. Then they said there are 6 steps on the right side of the Maidan through which you can climb to the back side of the temple. And I used to sit on the 3rd step when King Seti used to come and kiss me. So they removed the soil, and to their bewilderment, they saw the 6 steps exactly as this lady told. And when the hieroglyphics, the script of the Egyptians were deciphered, 6 alphabets could not be deciphered as per the famous Rosetta Stone, the BC 126 order of Ptolemy the 6th. So they wanted to know the decipherment of the 6 letters. So they asked this girl, can you decipher this? She said, yes, this letter is this letter is this. So a dead language, 2000 years ago, it died. But she could decipher all the 6 alphabets correctly. So whether this woman, who really lived around 3,400 years ago, was really reborn as Om Seti, this is a bewilderment of science. And she wrote an autobiography, and that book is available in the BBC World Service. And BBC World Service really recorded her story and broadcast it in the BBC World Service. So there are hundreds of stories in India where rebirth is there recorded. And many of those stories, according to science, you may not be able to believe it. But this is another kind of information. Only people with an extrasensory perception will be able to understand it. Ordinary people cannot understand it. It depends upon the size of the paracerebellum on the right side of your brain cerebellum. Only people with a large paracerebellum can understand this kind of extrasensory perception. Others will say it is all superstition. So let us leave it to each one's knowledge and ESP powers.
So my next question is, you worked as the Director General of Prison. You seem to have conducted a study of the psyche of a rapist. Can you narrate what happened here?
You see, 2 doctors from Amrita Medical College in Ernakulam came. This one girl came to Mada Amrudanandamayi at the age of 6, having some impairment of speech. So she came from a poor family. So Mada Amrudanandamayi told her, look girl, don't get desperate. You are meant for great things. You stay with me. I will teach you. And the parents gave that girl with speech impairment to Mada Amrudanandamayi. Mada Amrudanandamayi taught her, gave her admission in the medical college. She became a doctor, famous Dr. Lakshmi, and Mother Amdan cured her of this speech impairment. She speaks very well, and she and her husband wanted to conduct a research. They came to me. They said, our research is, when you come to which horoscope, you land up in prison. This is the research. I told them, look, if I permit this research, I will be immediately dubbed as a superstition fellow and all those things. But this is one thing I am also interested. So I will allow you to conduct a research, with which you can take a PhD, no problem. So out of 2,600 prisons in the central prison, around 1,600 knew their birth time. Some Tamilian and Andhra, these seasoned criminals, many of them had no idea which day, which time they were born. But around 1,600 fellows could identify the date, time of birth. So I recorded that and handed over to Lakshmi and her husband, Jayashankar. So they studied it, they found out that when 3 horoscope repeats, you will land up in prison. So if you have Ashtamatil Shani, when Ashtamatil Shani enters, you will land up in prison. So Lakshmana, my senior officer IG, landed up in prison when Ashtamatil Shani entered his horoscope. R. Balashwala minister was inside the jail at that time. He landed up in jail, the former jail minister, landed up in jail when Ashtamatil Shani entered his horoscope. So around 800 of the prisoners landed up in jail when Ashtamatil Shani entered their horoscope.
When you say
Second one was that
when you say Ashtamatil Shani, you mean Shani Dasha?
Shani Dasha. I don't know the horoscopes and all.
Okay,
This is what they told. Ashtamatil Shani enters your horoscope, you land up in prison. Second one is that when you are in Shani Dasha and a Rahu enters your Shani Dasha, you will land up in jail. Around 700 of the prisoners landed up in jail when exactly this happened. So Lakshmi and husband told me 3 coincidences, 3 of them. And all the 3, any of them happens, you will land up in prison. So I immediately constructed a astrologer where I have any problem of getting these 3 into my horoscope, because jail minister had landed up. So jail DG also can land up anytime. They told me that all the phases are over. No, you have no problem now in the rest of your life. But there was one person in whom all the 3 has coincided. Ashtamatil Shani, Rahu entering Shani, or whatever it is they told. And that was a fellow who raped 21 women. And in the last rape case, he raped a grandmother, mother, and grandchild. All women belong to 3 generations in one house. These 3 women only were there. All the 3 should have joined together and hit that fellow with some iron implement and kill him. Instead of that, they surrendered. And all the 3 women belong to 3 generations this fellow raped. And on that case, Chetu Shankaran Nair, who was a judge of Kerala High Court, he issued an order that he shall not see the outside of the prison till death. This was the punishment. And neither full bench of the High Court nor Supreme Court ruled that order. And he was in jail for 36 years when I met him. And even now he's in jail. He's around 43 years in jail now. Now, this fellow's eyes look red. In the art, when a cruel man has to be depicted, we paint the white part of the eyes as red color. Yes, exactly the same. And red colored eyes and typical canine teeth protruding out of his mouth. A Dracula-like thing. So, born criminal, you have to say he is a born criminal. He was a private bus owner. He had 7 buses with him. So when all the buses are grounded, night he will go on his prowl and rape women. That was his problem. And at last God punished him. He got a cerebral stroke. He can only crawl on the ground. An insect will lay eggs on his skin, and early morning he has to get up and take the larvae out of his skin. So he's really punished by God. Now this fellow, his character and his horoscope was something which was studied in depth by Dr. Lishmi, her husband, and myself, to tell others how to prevent this kind of a fellow attacking them. And we published few articles also, and the couple got a PhD for their research on the prisoners. Now, there are certain born criminals like that. You cannot explain with any kind of psychology how this kind of people develop into to repeated criminals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
So one
powerful
last
story.
question. Yeah, one last question before we wind up. That is this recent case of human sacrifices as spread by the mainstream media, which of course, implies a lot more in what happened in that case. What is your assessment of that case?
So, open narrating of that thing is completely different story. Now, Narabali was common to all the religions till Buddhism appeared on the earth. In the Hindu Puranas, hundreds of Narabali is there. You can remember the story of Shunashepan and others purchased and sacrificed on the altar. Abraham, who was common to Jews, Christians, and Muslims, he thought his son can be sacrificed for pleasing the gods. But God himself interfered, saved that son, and said, hereafter, Narabali is not permitted. So God stopped it at the time of Abraham's life, according to Bible stories. Egypt, Narabali was very common. In Jupiter and Zeus beliefs of Europe, Narabali was very common. Of course, male children were being sacrificed. The great Iliad, the great epic of the Greeks, starts with a belly, because Asura told that if you sacrifice a girl child, you will win the Trojan War, or you will lose it. So Agamemnon offered something equivalent to 1,000 sovereigns of gold and all, but nobody was willing to give their girl child, for sacrifice. So ultimately, Agamemnon took hold of his own 13-year-old daughter, Iphigenia or Hydra, and she was sacrificed. He went to the war, and after 10 years, won the war and came back. And his wife, Clytemnestra, sacrificed him that night, telling that he sacrificed my daughter, so I have the right to kill my husband. This is what story of Iliad starts. But if you go to American continent, the Aztecs and the Incas, etc., there you have to sacrifice thousands of male soldiers if you want to propitiate the gods. So Chichen Itza, the famous pyramid of the Americans, 20,000 young men were sacrificed. They themselves pictured it on their walls. Even now in Chichen Itza, you can see it. If you go to South America, the gods are pleased only if girl children were sacrificed. So thousands of girl children were sacrificed every year to please the gods. Now, if you go to the bank of Ganges, among the Hindus, there was a belief: if you have more than 2 girl children, one of them have to be sacrificed to get a male child. So they used to throw these girl children into the mouth of crocodiles on the banks of the Ganges, river Ganges. It continued up to 1862. The Britishers passed an act, Female Infanticide Prevention Act in 1829. But even that also couldn't prevent it. Then there was a famous police officer called Sleeman. He said, look, by law, this cannot be prevented. I can prevent it if you permit me to kill the crocodiles. So he shot dead all the crocodiles and sold their skin in the European markets, and he became a very rich man. He is the founder of CRPF, the famous police force in India. Now, this kind of human sacrifice has gone throughout the world. Now, something like that happening in Kerala is something horrific for you and me, according to our conscience. Now, in Sangaraja's famous story, we know that Kabaligas, they wanted to propitiate the gods. 99 people they sacrificed, but you can get heaven only if the 100th man also is sacrificed. So they came to Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya offered his own head and went to Kabaliga's home, this place. Then one of his disciples took the form of Narasimham and saved Shankaracharya. So 1200 years before, 100 people getting Narabali in the Indian soil, is really horrific to realize. So something like that happening in Kerala, that to around 8 kilometers from my birthplace, is something horrific as far as we know.
But they say that there is a human organ trafficking element involved in it.
That we cannot prove unless the case is
Because
proved.
in one of the debates, they said that the way they cut the pieces, it was with the doctor's precision. It was done.
That has to be proved.
Yes.
Now, as you asked me
Yeah.
earlier, this case can be correctly proved if only the Atman of that lady is called back.
Yes. Yes.
Now, then you say it is superstition, then the pure thing cannot be called. If some of the people who can do this kind of extrasensory thing is called, and the two women's soul is called back, they will tell the whole story, what has happened,
Yeah.
and how their body was dissected, and what all things were taken out, and all those things can be detected out. Unless without that, you cannot completely take it out.
Yeah. So, doctor, in all these so many experiences you've had, so many in your in your life, has this all transformed you spiritually?
Yes, that was regarding that. Yeah, this thing you employed a psychologist to find out the psyche of this rapist, and
Yes, yes.
and it was stonewalled, I think.
The rapist, I called 3 psychologists and asked them to study the rapist scientifically. So they prepared 1,000 questions and started asking them one to one like that. So that psychologist studied the rapist and then ultimately found out that he had a psychic problem from the age of 8. And because of that psychic problem, he became a rapist like that. And that's what the psychologist have found out. I told them to publish that thing. Then they said that according to prison law, you're not supposed to take personal details out of a prisoner. So it will be against the prison laws. So if they publish it, they can be caught in a civil dispute. So they didn't publish that. But that is one of the records in the jail department. Now, your question about spiritualism.
Yeah, has it changed you spiritually?
No, I was a very deeply spiritual person because I belong to a family thousands of years old, and last 500 years, my forefathers were the vicar priest of the Orthodox Cathedral of Tumbaman. So every generation, whoever becomes the priest, live in my house, and other brothers, whether they are senior or junior, move out of the house. That was the system. So 21 generations continuously, my family were priest. And I belong to a family which was a Nambudiri. My house is a Nambudiri Illam. We preserve that Nambudiri Illam even now. And I am one of the Christians who have a Punut, a sacred thread. Out of 365 days, one day we dress like Nambudiri men. And the women in our house dress like Nambudiri women. And we have certain pujas objected by Christian leaders. That's a different thing. Anyhow, that spiritual thing has given me a lot of insights into this kind of spiritual matters. My house of hundreds of snakes. They say these snakes are there to protect some idol inside my house.
Absolutely.
I have not
yes, there is
did
proof
any investigation
with
into
regards
it,
to
but hundreds of snakes
many
are
of
there.
many of the Shiva lingas which have been found in many ancient places. They have all been protected by snakes.
Hundreds of snakes. We can see them crawling in front of us.
Yes.
And one day I was sleeping as a big cobra crawled on my body and just got out of above my body. Now, according to the biology I studied, if a snake touches a human body, it will immediately bite because of the temperature. Why this cobra didn't bit me at that time is a big mystery even now for me. And there was a small sarpakal at the corner of our property. So my father's brother, who was IGP of Andhra Pradesh, he didn't believe it. So he wanted to destroy that sarpakal. So he brought a big machine, and the moment they touched the side of the sarpakal, a telephone call came that his wife got a cerebral stroke in Hyderabad. So he immediately stopped it and went back to Hyderabad. Nothing would be done on that sarpakal. I am a Christian. I don't know how it happens, and I cannot explain it also. But in my house, I have seen the real sarpam. Now, I never believed there is a 6-inch long golden snakes which can fly in the sky, etc. I thought it is a myth,
Yeah.
a legend, until I saw it myself.
My
A
God.
6-inch long golden snake flying in the atmosphere. It can, in one jump, fly around 50 meters.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw it, I believe. I have a lot of such spiritual experiences. My father's brother's wife one day came, and in front of the holy room in my house, which was used by the Nambudris and which was used by our forefathers who are Christian priests, and in front of which 3 archbishops have given mass, holy mass. He accidentally slept. Suddenly, we heard a big shout that this woman is crying. So we ran to the place. She told, a priest came and hit me on my cheek. Very old priest. When we looked at her cheek, the finger of the 5 fingers is clearly seen. She was a very beautiful woman. So the fingers could be seen from the cheek of that lady. When she described it, we found out that the person who came was my great grandfather, was a priest. Now, no woman is supposed to lie down or sleep in front of that holy room. It accidentally happened that she sat there and accidentally slept.
Dozed off.
So whether a soul can come from past life and hit somebody who is living now and leave the mark of that strike on the cheek. An ordinary person will tell, I am superstitious, or what I am telling is a lie. Unless I saw it with my own eyes and my own ears, I know the story is true. So this kind of spiritual experiences are there. I was deeply religious from my childhood. I continue to remain spiritual, and I pray 4 or 5 times a day. I have 2 rosaries, one in my pocket and one around my neck. I pray my rosaries twice a day. I'm highly spiritual. But there are some spiritual experiences which ordinary people cannot believe. They cannot understand that it is true. But what your eyes tell you and what your ears hear you, that is what remains to be true.
Yeah.
Now, the famous problem with the Maya story of the Shankaracharya in Advaita philosophy, from Rigveda downwards, we have a Maya philosophy. Now, this year's Nobel Prize for Physics is awarded to the person who explains his Maya theory in the European languages. That's all. He purely says there is nothing going to matter. You may think you have a body, that you have touched your body, but the body is not there. Because inside the atom, it is 99.99% vacant.
Yes.
The proton, neutron, and the electron put together is only 0.01. And if you take the universe, 99.999 up to 12.9 is vacant. The matter in the universe is only 0.0000 so many 12 zeros and then 1. And the so-called neutron, proton, and electron you say is not matter. Niels Bohr, in his famous theory, and Max Planck later in the quantum theory, they clearly proved that matter and energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but they are mutually exchangeable. What you see as matter today can become a wave and just leave that place. And what you see as a light or a ray can be condensed into matter tomorrow. And de Broglie, the famous scientist, went in the same path of Niels Bohr, Albert Einstein, and Max Planck. And he clearly proved that matter can be converted to energy according to a famous theory, this de Broglie's equation. He proved. So when our ancient rishis and Shankaracharya told, all what you see is Maya, and what you perceive as something which is existing is Maya, it is all foolishness, they told. And when we read through the famous philosophical treatise, one incident in Shankaracharya's life is told. Shankaracharya went to meet the king, and the king unleashed a mad elephant towards Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya climbed the tree and escaped from the elephant. And when the elephant was tied, And Shankaracharya came down and walked up to the king. King asked, "Why did you climb the tree? The elephant is a Maya. Why are you afraid of it?" He said, your king, your feeling that I am coming towards you is a Maya. O king, if you feel that you unleashed an elephant towards me, it is Maya. And if you feel that I am now in front of you, it is a Maya. Then the king asked, I can hear you and you can hear me. And is that Maya? He said it is sound Maya. Shankaracharya's famous play, it is only Shabda Maya or sound Maya. Now the famous story is recorded in the famous philosophical treatise. Now modern science has correctly proved that the Hindu Maya theory is absolutely true. And 80% of the world's matter is dark matter. You cannot see it, you cannot hear it, but the dark matter is there. 20% of the matter is only light matter, where by reflection of light you can perceive with your eyes that something is there. But what you see there is not there. That the matter in the world is a wave temporarily converted into matter, which will later become a wave and escape out of that place. Now, when the Hindu rishis told that all this is Maya, the Western people made fun of the Hindus. But now, even a Nobel Prize is awarded this year for the fellow who proves that everything is Maya, there is no matter at all. So one fellow's Vishwasam is another fellow's Andhavishwasam.
Absolutely.
One fellow's Ajaram is another fellow's Anajaram. It depends upon your perception. There's a famous story that in the Singapore, the famous cemetery is there. An Englishman came there and put some flowers on the tomb of his father. Then a Japanese fellow who died there, his son came and spread some rice above the tomb. Because when birds and other animals come and eat the rice, according to Japanese belief, the Atman of the dead person is happy. That's what they say. The Englishman cannot understand this ajaram of the Japanese. He made fun of him. When will your father come and eat this rice? So the Japanese fellow replied, when your father come to smell your flowers, my father will come and eat my rice. Now one fellow's ajaram, the Englishman felt, what is a foolish fellow, this Japanese fellow spreading rice over the tomb. The Japanese fellow felt the same thing, a dead person inside the tomb, and this fellow is wasting flowers on the tomb. So one fellow's ajaram can be another fellow's anajaram. One fellow's vishwasam can be another fellow's andhavishwasam. Now we should understand that every religion has its own good things and bad things. Appreciate the good things. Never make fun of or ridicule another religion or another fellow's belief. Everyone's belief has some truth inside it. Every myth has a secret inside it. Every short story will teach us some lesson. When you rise up to that level, you will not feel to make fun of some religion or some other belief of another human race or another religion. Now, what we want in India is absolutely that kind of thing. Now, Hindu religion is the only religion which accepted every other religion into its fold. When the Jews came, we accepted them. We gave them synagogues. We covered their Bible in gold and allowed them to worship here. Israel says, wherever Jews went, we were ill-treated, except in India. And the king of Cochin protected us in Matanjeri, and they tell the famous story in the history of Israel. When Zoroastrians came, we accepted them. They became in Bombay, the famous people. The only less than 6 lakhs. They gave us Tata. They gave us the youngest Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. They gave us Manaksha and all those things. When the Baha'is came, we accepted them. When Christians came, they gave them the places to construct their churches. And each of our family history starts where some Nair family gave us land to settle here. And we started living in this land. Muslims came, we accepted them. Baha'is were drawn out of Persia, we accepted them. Ahmadiyas were pushed out of Pakistan. All of them were accepted in India. And their leader Aga Khan had his famous palace in Delhi. And Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated when he walked out of Aga Khan's palace to the prayer hall where he was killed. So Hinduism is the only religion in the world which accepted every other religion from any part of the world. In the original country where the religion originated, they are exterminated. No religion is there. but every religion everywhere in the world is protected in the land of India. That's the great heart of Hindus and Hinduism. So that spirit should be permeated to all other religions, and people should accept each other. Don't ridicule another religion. Don't ridicule another fellow's spiritual experiences. Don't call them Andhavishwasam and Anajaram. You look in his own thinking, then you will understand. One fellow's Ajaram is another fellow's Anajaram. Another fellow's Anajaram is one fellow's Ajaram. One fellow's Vishwasam is another fellow's Andhavishwasam. One fellow's Andhavishwasam becomes Vishwasam for somebody else. One fellow's Mandram will become Mandravadam for somebody else. Somebody else's Mandravadam will be Mandram for somebody else. So accept all these things with equanimity. Then mankind and modern world will be a better world. That's what my belief.
Thank you so much for this wonderful talk that we had. You have not only educated us a lot, also you have inspired us to think so much ahead. And it's been very, very interesting. So thank you so much for your time. So
Thank you.
goodbye from us till we meet again.
Goodbye.
Thank you.